What's going on, guys? Stixie with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I'm bringing you a deck that I have wanted to bring you guys since the announcement of Guardians Rising and the real reveal of Turtonator-GX, and you guys might be thinking, wait, Stix, that was the second deck that you did when Guardians Rising came out. You have already done a Turtonator-GX deck, and yes, you are correct. However, the deck that I'm bringing you guys today was the OG idea that I had for this, and that is a deck centered around Turtonator and Bursting Balloon. And if I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, this combination is ridiculously awesome. I mean, it's so cool, and I'm hoping that I can show it off to you guys in the live. But before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you guys like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and click that subscribe button. It helps us out a lot, and lets us do more for you guys. And as for the question of the day, because this is a Sunday upload, there's no true question of the day apart from, how was your guys' past week, and do you have anything exciting going on in this upcoming week? So yeah, I mean, anything cool happened to you last week? And do you have anything cool going on this coming week? Let me know in the comments section below. Very curious to see what you guys have going on, especially because summer is pretty much here. For the majority of you guys, if summer's not here yet, I am sorry. But for the majority of people, summer is here. And so, yeah, you guys doing anything cool to celebrate the kicking off of summer? Or are you guys in the middle of finals? If you're in the finals, then RIP. And I got my fingers crossed for you. But anyway, onto the deck, like I said, centered around Turtonator and Bursting Balloon. And if you look at this deck list, you'll notice that it is incredibly similar to the Turtonator Volcanion list that I put out on the second day. So I'm really not going to spend too much time talking about the deck list and what it does. I mean, if you want more in-depth explanations into why cards are in here, then definitely go check out my original Turtonator Volcanion video, but I'm just going to kind of work under the assumption that you guys already know what that deck does and just have clicked on this to see a different version. So I'm just going to go right into the Pokemon and go from there. 2-1 of Shaymin and Lele. I know I've been going with 1-2 of Shaymin and Lele, but because this deck has Hoopa in it, Shaymin is searchable with Hoopa, Lele is not. So that's why we're running a higher count of Lele than Shaymin. For Volcanion, just because of Steam Up, pair that with the basic Shell Trap from Turtonator and just make it hit for more damage, set up knockouts with Recoil from Shell Trap and Bursting Balloon. 2 baby Volcanions with Power Heater to be able to power things up. 3 Turtonator because main attacker of the deck. This guy, you're going to be wanting to start with it, and you're going to want to hit things so quickly. Shell Trap for a DCE. As you can see, we're running DCE in this deck. Does 20 damage, easily powered up by Steam Ups. And then if your opponent attacks into this Pokemon, they receive 8 damage counters. Combine that with Bursting Balloon, and all of a sudden, if your opponent attacks a Turtonator, I mean, just the recoil does 140 damage to them. That is absurd. That means that simply doing a single Steam Up, that's 50, that's 190 damage. A single Steam Up Shell Trap, if you have a Bursting Balloon attached to Turtonator and your opponent attacks into you, that knocks out, like, Lapras. That knocks out other Turtonator. I mean, granted, non-fighting Fury Belted, but still, it knocks them out just on recoil, which means that you can still attack during your turn. So that combination is very, very potent, and I've had quite a bit of fun with this deck. Also, we are running Bright Flame, or not running Bright Flame. Another attack that Turtonator has is Bright Flame. Basically just an Oko type of attack. You can still slap a Bursting Balloon on it. And then Bright Flame, your opponent doesn't get hit for like the 8 damage counters from Shell Trap. But this way Bright Flame can just be like, okay, let's just go ahead and knock out whatever's in front of me. Don't let him attack all that. And yeah, we'll deal with that later. And plus, if you discard 2 energy from Turtonator, or 2 fire energies, you can still just slap an energy on it and Shell Trap next turn. So these 2 attacks actually have some very nice synergy together. And then Nitro Tank GX, attach 5 fire energy from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way you like. Just an absurdly powerful GX attack when you combine it with Steam Up from Volcanion, just being able to 5 energy from the discard pile, I'm throwing it onto my Pokemon. So very ridiculously strong right there. As for the items, running kind of a standard, I'll come back to this one in a little bit. Running an Escape Rope because, I mean, Volcanions, Hoopas, Turtonators all have pretty heavy retreat costs, so we want to be able to get those guys out of the active spot. Not necessarily, well, we don't want to have to manually retreat, but then we also want to just be able to not have to waste a supporter with Olympia or a Float Stone, so Escape Rope's just a nice way out of that. One Field Blower gets rid of the tool attached to our opposing Garbodor. Mainly, Field Blower is for Garbodor, so that we can shut that off, so that we can use our Steam Up abilities. Basically, I mean, that's the reason that Field Blower is in here. Also, get rid of Pesky Parallel City if that comes into play. For Max Elixir, I'm still kind of torn on whether or not I like Max Elixir in this version of the deck. In the original version of Turtonator Volcanion, yes, 100% run 4 Max Elixir. In this version, I'm not too completely sure how I like it, just because, I mean, you can power up Turtonator in 1 turn for the attack that this deck is centered around with a single DCE. And then you want to have the fire energy available to steam up. So, I don't know. I couldn't bring myself to get rid of Max Elixir because I still like it. I mean, the prospects of a turn 1 Bright Flame are just unmatched. I mean, that is such a powerful, powerful thing to be able to have. But at the same time, I can totally understand getting rid of Max Elixir, like if you want to throw in another Escape Rope and a Switch, another Float Stone, just if you want to have more ways of retreating Volcanions, I can understand that. But I do like Max Elixir, so I encourage you guys to try out both and then let me know what works best for you. Rescue Stretcher, we're using Rescue Stretcher over Super Rod because getting energy from the discard pile is kind of what this deck centers around. I mean, Volcanion and Turtonator are 2 methods of energy acceleration. Both get it from the discard pile, so we might as well just go ahead and use those guys for that. And also, we have a supporter that gets energy from the discard pile and puts it back into our hand as opposed to the deck. So Rescue Stretcher is more what we want in this scenario as opposed to Super Rod, just because we have methods of recursion from the discard pile for energy, so might as well just have Pokemon and the option to grab a single Pokemon from the discard pile. For Ultra Ball, guaranteed get us what we want when we want. For Via Seeker, let us reuse all of our supporters. Then as to these supporters, you have my standard 3-3-2 line of Sycamore and Lysandre. 1 Olympia. There's no Hex Maniac in this deck, but 1 Olympia just to be able to get our heavy retreat cost Pokemon out of the active. That way a Via Seeker can turn into a switch, essentially. And then 1 Fisherman to be able to get fire energy from our discard pile into our hand so we can continually and consistently steam up for some very good damage. Absolute max number of Bursting Balloon, because, I mean, that's the strategy of this deck. Attack with Shell Trap, power up Shell Trap with Steam Up, hit our opponents with a powered up Shell Trap, and then have Bursting Balloon make them pay dearly if they want to attack into my Turtonator. And the item that I did not talk about is Eco Arm. Basically, Eco Arm just works perfectly with Bursting Balloon because Bursting Balloon only works for 1 turn. Eco Arm allows you to shuffle 3 of those back into the deck to be able to reuse them. That way you essentially have 7 Bursting Balloons at the, well, in an ideal situation, you have 7 Bursting Balloons to work with, and there are situations where your opponent just simply won't attack, or if they attack into it, then they get damaged. So really, it either buys you a turn or gets 140 damage on your opponent, plus whatever you attacked with, for what was essentially a DCE. So Eco Arm plus Bursting Balloon is really the combination that gets this deck going. 2 Float Stones for our Heavy Retreat Volcanions, 3 DCEs. I mean, if you decide to get rid of Max Elixir, run 4 DCEs, and then do other cards. I like 3 DCEs because it gives me a DCE when I need it, I have found, but at the same time, it doesn't clog up things. I'm still able to hit my Max Elixirs with the fire energy and whatnot. So 3 DCEs works for me, but definitely try out your own number and let me know how that works for you. And then 9 fire energy for Max Elixirs, Steam Up, Fisherman, all that good stuff. That makes this deck able to do what I want it to do. So yeah, that was a shorter deck list than normal, but again, you guys mostly know what this stuff does. And yeah, done rambling. Let's go ahead and see this deck in action. Alrighty, we have found one against Kua8460 with a kind of looks like a Tapu Koko deck. I mean, just, yeah, I mean, that's what it looks like based on not only the typing, but the sleeves and stuff like that. I start off with a, actually, you know what, it's a pretty solid hand. I can play down the Hoopa to get another Volcan, a Shaymin. I can Ultra Ball for a Turtonator. So I have plenty of options on this turn 1. So in a good spot for sure. We do see that my opponent actually plays the Koko on the bench. Not sure why you would go ahead and play the Coco down. But okay, my opponent does Lysandre up my Volcanion, so he really must not have much of anything at all. That Jolteon is going to be a little bit of a threat, and by a little bit of a threat, I mean quite a bit of a threat. Just because that thing is going to be scary to have to deal with, and hopefully I can take it out before it's able to Flash Ray and put me in trouble. Unfortunately, I am going to have to just go ahead and Ultra Ball to get rid of two VS Seekers, because I mean those aren't active right now. I really just need to be able to draw some cards. I'm going to Steam Up, get rid of that one Fire Energy, play down the Hoopa, thin out my deck just a little bit before I go for the Max Elixir so I can try to increase my odds of hitting it. Let's grab the Volk and the Shaymin, play the Volcanion down, and then let's go for the Max Elixir, see if we can hit it. We do. Throw that onto the Turtonator. If I can get like another Max Elixir and a Float Stone, and a manual attachment, I'll be able to knock out this Jolteon. And okay. So this actually isn't bad. What I am going to do is go ahead and Sky Field. Let's DCE up the Turtonator. Just because. Olympia the Volcanion into the Turtonator. So at the very least, I can get some damage on the board and get this Jolteon started in the range of getting knocked out. So yeah, Shell Trap for 50. All I need is a manual attachment next turn to be able to knock out this Jolteon with Bright Flame. And yeah, the fact that I have a DCE on there actually could come in handy because that's all that I need for Shell Trap. And he's going to Max Potion. So that's unfortunate, but I mean, you know what? It happens. Ah, there's the Float Stone. So let's play that down. Sycamore away my hand. Hopefully draw into a Fire Energy, which I do. And a Bursting Balloon. So that's pretty nice. Let's play down the other Volcanion, or the other Turtonator, just because in case my opponent decides to counter my Stadium, I can discard Hoopa. But here we are. Let's go ahead and Bright Flame. Do I have the knockout? Yeah, I do have the knockout. I don't need to Steam Up at all. I had a brief moment of panic to where I was like, oh wait, maybe Jolteon has 170 HP. But nope, only 160. So Bright Flame, even without any Steam Ups, is going to be able to knock him out. My opponent will be able to hit me for some good damage right here. But, I mean, he'll be hit by the Bursting Balloon, and then I'll be able to potentially Shell Trap for the win if I get enough Steam Ups. Just because, actually, wait, it'll do 60, 110. I'll need another Volcanion and another Steam Up in order to be able to knock out the Tapu Koko. And actually, well, never mind, because my opponent is going to get rid of my Bursting Balloon and my Sky Field, but that's exactly why I played down the other Turtonator, so that I can get rid of the Hoopa in order to be able to do that. And okay, my opponent will just Sky High Claws, that's fine. Set up a 2-hit KO on my Turtonator, but you know what? We got this thing called Bursting Balloon. And I'm about to do this thing called Shell Trap. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt quite a bit. So let's go ahead and Steam Up. How many times do I want to Steam Up? Let's go ahead and do it twice. Yeah, if I do it twice, I have the knockout with my Turtonator. Next turn, with the combination of Shell Trap plus Bursting Balloon. Actually, with Bursting Balloon, I would have gotten it anyway. But yeah, let's grab a Sycamore with my VS Seeker and play that down. Play out my hand just a little bit more. If I get another energy, oh, that's perfect. I can play that onto my other Turtonator that's on the bench. I put the Bursting Balloon on the Shaymin just because that's the only thing that my opponent could Lysandre up and then get a knockout on. But here we go. Steam Up, well, a Shell Trap for 80 damage. It's going to hit my opponent. I mean, my opponent's going to be knocked out even... Actually, no, if he gets rid of the Bursting Balloon, then he won't be able to knock me out. Then I won't be able to knock him out with the Recoil. But I will be able to knock him out with a Shell Trap next turn. So, I mean, at the very least, my opponent cannot attack me at all. Okay, so I guess he just decides I can't draw anything, so screw it. I'm just going to knock myself out, hit my opponent, take a knockout there. And, yeah, able to win the game. Unfortunate that my opponent wasn't able to draw anything. I mean, that was plain and simple. We got lucky in that regard that my opponent kind of drew dead. But still, I got to actually win the game with a combination of Shell Trap plus Bursting Balloon. And how cool is that? I mean, that's exactly what this deck is designed to do. I still think the regular Turtonator version is better. But regardless, that was too short of a match. Let's go ahead and try to find another one with this deck. Alrighty, we have found another one against Ricardo Velho with a Grass, Psychic, and Normal deck. So not completely sure what my opponent is running. I'm really hoping it's not a Garbodor Trevenant Vileplume deck that I've seen running around, because that would just be unfortunate. And, I mean, admittedly, we probably would have the type advantage just because of being able to knock out Trevenants in one hit with Shell Trap. But, okay, my opponent does win the coin flip. And, okay, oh, phew. I was worried we were going to start with Shaymin. That would have been very bad. But unfortunately, we do not get to go first. And every time I see a grass deck, I always would like to go first. When we see a Lugia, that's kind of indicative of Vileplume to me. Just because Lugia is usually teched into those types of decks. So this should be interesting, to say the least. My opponent just immediately throws a Float Stone on there. And Sycamore's away his hand. So we shouldn't see too overly explosive return. And yeah, there's the Vileplume, there's the Gloom. This is a Vileplume deck for sure. There's the Phantump, so it's a Vileplume Trevenant. I thought I saw a Garbodor in there, so it's exactly what I did not want it to be, which is very unfortunate. However, I think I should be able to still win. If I'm able to get my Turtonators going. So unfortunately, I will not be able to show off the Bursting Balloon side of this deck, which is kind of the whole reason I'm doing this deck in the first place, is to show a Bursting Balloon version of Turtonator. But considering that my opponent will have me item locked, so Bursting Balloons will essentially be dead cards. But I mean, hey, for those of you that were complaining that I don't play against competitive decks, here's a very competitive deck. And unfortunately, I won't get to show off exactly what this fun deck is supposed to do. But I mean, hey, at least it's a match against a competitive deck, right? So, alright, my opponent is unfortunately starting to get things going a little bit, able to get a DCE up onto the Lugia. Shaymin is going to be set right down. Hopefully, okay, I just don't want my opponent getting a turn 1 Vileplume. As long as my opponent doesn't get a turn 1 Vileplume, I think I should be in a decent position overall. Okay, I get a Max Elixir. I can work with this. So let's go ahead and get rid of Lysandre and the Rescue Stretcher. Rescue Stretcher is not going to be doing much for me at all this game. Let's grab the Hoopa. Honestly, let's just go ahead and grab it. Play that down. I don't want to Max Elixir onto a Volcanion, but I can. And then let's grab 2 Volcanions with the Hoopa. Save that last spot for a potential Lele if I'm able to get it. Let's steam up. Get that thing going. If I can draw into my DCE, then I'll be able to Shell Trap turn 1. Bursting Balloon up my Turtonator. I do hit a Max Elixir, so that's pretty nice. Throw that onto my Volcanion. Just, I mean, hey, I have it as an attacker later if I need it. And then Shaymin for a fresh 6 cards. Well, that's something. Unfortunate. Well, I don't get a draw supporter. That is actually very bad. But for the time being, let's just VS Seeker. Grab the Lysandre. I'm going to hold off on that for now. And actually, no. Let's just bring up the Shaymin. Bring up the Shaymin so my opponent can't hit me with an Arrow Ball. And then, how many are in the discard pile? 2. Let's go ahead and steam up once again. And then Nitro Tank. I know I want to use this as a late game GX attack. But just because I need to get something going, I'm just going to go ahead and Nitro Tank for only 2 energy. So it's admittedly, it seems like a little bit of a waste of a Nitro Tank. Just because I'm only getting 2 of the 5 energy. So I'm only using it to 40% of its maximum capacity. But I don't know. I felt like that was something I needed to do. We see the Trevenant come down. I need to limit my hand of trainers. Luckily, right now, my opponent's only going to be hitting me for 30 damage with Trevenant. We don't see the Garbodor come down yet. Garbodor cannot take advantage of Forest of Giant Plants. So, I mean, that's something that I, at the very least, don't have to worry about my opponent just dropping a Garbodor out of nowhere. And with the Shaymin, he has to attach an energy or a Float Stone, which he gets a Float Stone. So, that's unfortunate. On the bright side, if my opponent does attack me, then he'll be hit for some pretty good damage with Arrow Ball. And yeah, I am putting my Turtonator in danger of being knocked out, of being put in range of Arrow Ball, or in range of What am I putting it in range of? My Turtonator is going to be hit for more damage. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. With an Arrow Ball from my opponent's Lugia. But at the same time, I think I'm fine overall. You see the Lysandre come out, and that's a little bit scary. Because, I mean, unfortunately, I have not drawn into a single draw supporter yet. That is very bad. I mean, that's extraordinarily bad, actually. Because the one thing that is my saving grace against a Vileplume deck is the fact that my opponent hasn't even come close to setting up a Vileplume yet. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to take advantage at all because I haven't gotten a supporter. So that's... First turn could be going quite a bit better for me. Luckily, my opponent hasn't gotten much set up. He has taken his sweet time, though. I mean, maybe just looking through his deck. I don't know. My opponent is slow playing quite a bit. He's definitely taking his time with his moves. So, I mean, unfortunately, I can't knock it. It's just a little bit annoying that it's turn 2 and my opponent's already almost down 5 minutes from when he started. So, I mean, that's okay. Sorry, I'm not okay. I'm not trying to complain. It's just a little bit annoying to try to go up against if your opponent takes like 2.5 minutes a turn, especially on TCGO. I mean, in real life, when there are real stakes, okay, I completely support looking through your plays, making sure you make the right one at the right time, and not making any tiny little mistakes that could cost you a spot in top 8, and with real monetary prizes and whatnot. But on TCGO, I don't know. I don't think that slow playing is particularly necessary. I mean, okay, again, look through your options, but it's not like you need to be like, okay, I have to figure out what's in my prizes turn 1, blah blah blah. But we do see that my opponent grabs the Vileplume, and oh boy, if he top decked that Revitalizer, I'm gonna be mad. But considering he did grab the Vileplume with the Ultra Ball, I'm thinking that he might have already... Actually, you know what? He must have top-decked that, because otherwise, why would you Ultra Ball for the Vileplume? Why wouldn't you grab a Shaymin or something like that to be able to draw more cards? The Vileplume does come down this turn without a Float Stone, so I probably should have saved my Lysandre for that, actually. But Arrow Ball will hit me for 120. That Lugia is going to be hit very hard with the Bursting Balloon. And there's a Fisherman. So that's actually a pretty great card for me to be able to draw into at this point. Because I will be able to knock out this Lugia with a Bright Flame, and that will put... And if my Turtonator gets knocked out, that will put more energy in my discard pile. There's a Sky Field and a Float Stone. So we're just going to have to play this out. I don't have any draw supporters. Fisherman is still very good in this situation because I'll be able to get back, well, 2 energy at the very least, 3 energy if my opponent is able to knock out this active Turtonator, which I still have another one in the background that I can just attach an energy onto after I Fisherman. So not in a horrible spot overall. My opponent does Lysandre. What does he Lysandre up? Just Lysandre's up a Volcanion, plays down a Phantump and a Rangaroo. So, oh boy, this is gonna be tough. Trevenant can hit me for some good damage right now. I need my Olympia. I really need Olympia right now. On the bright side, if I draw into a Lele, I can Skyfield, play down the Lele, and grab Olympia with that to be able to switch out, but then I won't have an energy. Huh, this is getting kind of tricky. Well, on the bright side, my opponent locked himself out of items, so at least I can take a little solace in that. And I do get another Turtonator. Let's go ahead and play down the Sky Field. And I'm playing down this Turtonator just so I can discard Hoopa. And I'm just going to end my turn. I could have Fisherman for 2 energy, but considering that's the only copy of Fisherman I play in the deck, I want to be able to get more use out of it than just 2 energy. Because I already used Nitro Tank to only 40% of its potential, which, I mean, I think it was still my best play because it allowed me to get a knockout on a Lugia, especially the fact that I have not drawn into a single draw supporter yet. So I still think that that was my best play. But for the time being, it's looking pretty bad because I wasn't able to get any I wasn't able to get my float stones down. I wasn't able to get good setup, anything like that. You know what? If my opponent's just going to keep this Volcanion up there until he gets fully set up. So I'm going to start powering up my Volcanion, threaten my opponent to where it's like, okay, you have to attack me. Otherwise, I'm going to take a knockout on the Shaymin, or I'm going to take a knockout on something. So you have to attack me at this point, is what I'm trying to make my opponent do. If I can... Oh, man, I want to draw supporter. I really, really want to draw supporter right now. Well, could be worse. Actually, I mean, apart from the fire energy, I hated my hand. So I'm okay with this. Maybe I can get a Sycamore. Yes! Success. I get a Sycamore. That is beautiful. Oh, that is beautiful to see. And I get another fire energy so I can attach it to the Volcanion, make my opponent worry about being hit with more damage and whatnot. So, we see a Poltergeist hit me for 90 damage. That'll be a 2-hit KO. Honestly, I'm okay with that. I can N or I can Sycamore. I think right now, let's just play the energy onto the undamaged Turtonator, then Sycamore away my hand. Okay, that works. Alright, so Volcanion, you're going to go down this turn. But I might... That's not good. I need another Volcanion so that I can steam up twice and be able to knock out Trevenant with Shell Trap. Because Shell Trap, I love it. I love it to death. Unfortunately, 20 damage just isn't enough. If it was 30 damage, that'd be so much better. But 20 just not enough. Not nearly enough. Or if I had a Fighting Fairy Belt, that'd work too. But, okay. What do I have? I can Lysandre up my opponent's Vileplume. That's definitely a play I can make. 6. So there's only 6 in the discard pile. There's only 6 items in the discard pile, so my opponent's Garbodor is only going to be hitting me for 120. What I can do this turn is my opponent... Okay, my opponent takes a knockout on the Volcanion. That's fine. Let's have an energy. Let's steam up. Do I want to? Yes, let's go ahead and steam up. And then I could Lysandre in the Shaymin and take 2 prizes with a Bright Flame. If I wanted to, and then I'd still have an energy to be able to Shell Trap next turn. I think... do I want to do that? Or do I want... Oh, what I can do... Yes, let's bring up the Phantom. This way I can start powering up my Turtonator in the background. Still able to take a knockout with Shell Trap. And then this way, if my opponent's Trevenant or Garbodor attacks into me, I can still knock them out with a Shell Trap next turn. So, yeah, and also this way I'm not playing like an odd prize game. I can always try to bring up the... Actually, no, have I already used my... Yeah, I've already used my 2 Lysandres. So unless my opponent's Vileplume goes down, I can't do anything about that. But I think my best play is to just make my opponent attack into me. That way I can knock them out with Shell Trap. And, yeah, I'm in a good position because I can power up another Turtonator in the background. If my opponent's Trevenant attacks into me, then I will be able to knock it out with a no steam up Shell Trap next turn, which it looks like he's going to do. He will not be able to knock me out. He'll be able to get me close, but not be able to knock me out. And now with the 80 damage that goes on it from Shell Trap, I can just play the energy onto my clean Turtonator, have that thing ready in the background, and then Shell Trap, knock out this Trevenant. And even though my opponent will probably be able to take a prize off of me with Garbodor, I still have another Turtonator in the background that I can Shell Trap and whatnot and try to go from there. So, yeah, my opponent will be able to go down to 2 prizes. I'm down to 2 prizes as well. If my opponent leaves the Shaymin up and I draw into a Fire Energy, I can win the game off of that, but I mean, that's obviously not the play. The best play is to go into Garbodor and Trashalanche to knock me out. And actually, if I draw into a Fire Energy, I can simply steam up to be able to put the Garbodor in. Oh, wait. This works. I actually completely forgot for a second that I had the Shell Trap on me. So, ooh, I get an N, too. I'm definitely playing that. I mean, it puts items back into my deck. It gives my opponent a lower hand. Poltergeist won't be able to do nearly as much to me. And if I drew a Fire Energy in there, right there, that would have been super clutch. But what I can do, actually, is Shell Trap, force my opponent to attack into me. Wow, there was a voice crack right there. Force my opponent to attack into me. Okay, if he attacks into me with Garbodor, he knocks himself out. Then he has to bring up something else that I can Shell Trap, and then Trevenant will not be able to knock me out, I don't think, with a combination of... Well, I mean, unless I draw into a couple more items. But of course, I end my opponent into a Sycamore late game. Isn't that how it always works, guys? Isn't that how it always works? But, okay, Forest of Giant Plants comes down. That's honestly okay. I mean, I'm 2 prizes away from winning. If my opponent attacks into me with Garbodor, then he knocks himself out. I get a prize. If I get a Fire Energy among the prize plus my draw, then I win the game because I'll be able to knock out whatever he brings up. Or, I mean, if I get like a Sycamore or a Draw Supporter that gets me an energy, if I get something that gets me a single energy after my opponent attacks into me, I'll be able to win the game. So, I'm in a great position right now, actually. Because, actually, I think with TCGO, I'm not sure how it would go out, because it looks like it might end up in a tie, almost. Because if I knock out the Garbodor, if my opponent attacks into me, and I knock him out, then there's he's down to 1 prize. Well, I'm down to 1 prize, and then he would be down to 2 prizes. But Shell Trap with Trevenant. Well, if he goes into Trevenant, I'd be able to knock it out, or I'd be able to hit it with a Shell Trap, which would set it up to be knocked out by a. Which would set it up to be knocked out by the recoil damage from Shell Trap. So he'd knock me out. He'd knock himself out. I'd take my last prize. My opponent would take his last 2 prizes. But unfortunately, my opponent just decides not to attack. Maybe he saw what I saw, that all I needed to do was draw into a single energy off of my prizes or my top deck, and he wanted to make me draw force me into my prizes. Or I guess force me to not take a prize coming into my turn and only take a prize when it's going into his turn. That way I don't get to use it immediately. I don't know. Either way, I still think... I don't know. This game is coming down to the absolute wire. I still think he should have attacked, at least gotten damage off on me. And then if he... And then when he would have gotten hit, he could have gone into Shaymin and then retreated. And okay, I get an N. You know what? Let's go for it. Let's N, get that Shaymin and the DCE out of my opponent's hand, put it back into the deck, and would you look at that? Okay, N, I'm sorry I ever doubted you. Top deck, the Fire Energy, I'm able to Bright Flame, knock out this Trevenant, and win the game. So, unfortunately, I wasn't able to show off Bursting Balloon in this matchup because of, you know, the item lock, but still, I was able to make some plays. Shell Trap was able to do what it does. It actually deterred my opponent from attacking, which allowed me to win the game at that point. So that was actually pretty huge. I mean, wow, that was such a good game. Turtonator, like I said, able to come through. Shell Trap, such an underrated attack. I think it's actually a very, very, very good card that will see a lot more use, especially with the broken Fire supporter that's coming out. But either way, thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.